Welcome, and welcome back to not only the podcast Embodied Living with Christy, but to my new YouTube channel as well, The Homesteading Healer. So, for those of you watching on YouTube on my new channel, which I'm very excited about, this is going to be part of the things that I share here on this channel. Not only will I share homesteading stuff, but I'm going to share some stuff from my own personal healing journey as well. Those of you who are listening on the podcast, you know this, you know the drill by now. So I have reframed, shifted, rebranded things a little bit, but here on the podcast, things are going to stay the same. So today I want to talk a little bit about one of my core wounds, which is a poverty consciousness wound. I've been aware of this core wound for a while, a couple years maybe, or maybe about a year and a half. I don't know how long I've known about it, but anyway, here on the podcast, you guys know that this is what a lot of the work is for me, is digging into inner child stuff and into these core wounds and kind of working with all of that, working to heal things on that level. So I've done a lot of work this year on one of my other core wounds, the self-worth wound. And so this morning I sat down to do some journaling and a little bit of meditation, and I felt it was time to get into a little bit more my poverty consciousness wound. So I have done a little bit of work with this over the past couple years, but not a lot. And so I sat down, and as I started journaling, this was kind of what came up to be worked with a little bit. So I want to share a little bit of that with you. Let's dive in. So this work, as some of you may know, is very, very quantum based. So I work a lot with density, which is heavy or stuck energy that's keeping you kind of weighed down or stuck in certain mindsets or certain limiting beliefs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Density, for me, how I work with that is it shows up as specific like images or things that I can quote unquote see. So I'm working very, very energetically, and it can get pretty intense, but it's fun a lot of the times too. So I'm going to share what came up for me today. I started tapping into this poverty consciousness wound. And, first of all, I was exploring a little bit just about, money. You guys maybe already know, you've heard me talk about this. This has been a thing for me that I have been working through for a long time. So I was doing a little bit of exploration around money and how, even though I know, because I see other people doing it, it is possible to live a financially abundant and successful life while doing work that you love. I see that that's possible because others do it. There's still been this little voice inside my head that tells me that it's impossible for me to do that. So it's possible for others, but it's not possible for me. So I started going into that, and I said, like, what is this voice? And this is a lot of the time how I work through things for myself, is I'll just like ask myself and my higher self questions. So I asked, like, what is this voice? Well, a lot of this for me is like lineage. So generational beliefs and limitations and generational wounds and things that have trickled down to me that I'm now trying to be the cycle breaker of for all of that. So that was a big part of it. There was, old lifetimes of my own stuff, and also just as such a sensitive person to energy and to the collective, a lot of it, or a big part of it, was just millions and millions, maybe even billions of people who actually do believe that it's not like you just have to, work to earn money, and that's just how life is. You can't be financially abundant doing work that you love. So it was kind of a mixture of things of what that voice was. So I identified those, and then I went into quantum, so into a little bit of a meditation just to see if I could see kind of what was going on here. And the image came up of me, myself. So these meditations and doing this work is always very interesting because I'm not only the one doing this work and looking at myself, I'm also the one who is experiencing it. So it's always kind of a wild kind of thing to be doing this work for myself. But anyway, so I went in and I saw / felt myself with all of these like rubber bands around my body, and like just completely restricting me. And they were so tight that they were cutting off my circulation, cutting off energy flow within my body and my energy fields. And they were actually cutting into me. Excuse me. So this is density work. This is the energy of what's going on, of whatever I'm tapping into. So I get this picture or this feeling of these elastic bands, just so many elastic bands, and they're so tight that I can't even get like a scissors underneath to start snipping them off. They're cutting into me, causing like bleeding and all of these wounds. And it was a pretty crazy image. It's been a while since I've gone in and seen anything for myself that was that kind of like severe, I guess. And so I sort of, as I was in that, I was just kind of feeling into, okay, so how do I work with this? What does this require? And well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but with this type of work, often is what is required is to just lean into it. So I had to just completely, in this quantum realm, as I was seeing / experiencing this, was to just stop fighting and to just surrender to the full extent of these rubber bands, the rubber bands representing that poverty consciousness that were squeezing around me so tightly. Because what was happening was, as I was kind of fighting and struggling to break free of these rubber bands, is they would cut even more deeply into me, right? They wouldn't break though. It would just feel worse. And so I had to just surrender. And here in the physical, how I often do that is just breathe, just sit. Once you do that, things shift very, very quickly for the most part. So to allow myself to essentially just sit back and experience, kind of take on the brunt, the full extent, that full energy of those rubber bands, that poverty consciousness. And then once I just kind of let go and surrendered, then those rubber bands started just kind of snapping and breaking free and just dissolving and disappearing. So this is the amazing thing. One of the amazing things about doing this type of work in quantum is that all it takes often, most of the time, is just this acknowledgement. And that's enough to shift things. So once I did that and these rubber bands started letting go, and once they were all gone, I saw myself just kind of like crumple down onto the floor. And then just by, just the same as like a human wound, a physical wound on your body. So if you cut yourself, you need the air, that cut, to be exposed to the air, the oxygen, in order to heal. So this was the same kind of thing as I was laying there kind of crumpled up on the ground. And as those wounds, which were now so just like raw and still bleeding, as they were exposed to the air, then they started to heal. And then once you're working on those levels and you get into that space of, okay, I've seen what's going on, I've acknowledged this. Once you acknowledge, and things start to shift and release. Once they release, you float up and out. You rise up and out of that level, of that layer of frequency or of vibration. So where you were functioning from due to your beliefs, your thoughts, your wounds, your inner child, whatever. Once you level up from that, you're just no longer in that particular frequency. So this wound is likely going to take more attention, more awareness, more healing. This probably just isn't going to do the trick just from one kind of meditation and journaling session. But I just wanted to share it with you because I like you guys to be able to not only have insight into my own experiences and to hear that I actually for real do this work for myself and on myself, but then you get to hear what, for example, a session for you might look like if we're diving into density or into inner child or whatever the case may be. So that was my experience from this morning, and I plan to continue to dive into this. Maybe not every day because it can get a little bit intense and you do need periods of integration where you've leveled up, you've risen up and out of where you were functioning from. So you're in a new space and it's like, okay, energetically I'm here and now I'm functioning from this new, in this new state of being. So you have to kind of be able to settle into those new energies. So that is going to be it for this episode. I will share more as I do more. Maybe I'll try, say if I have 3 or 4 or 5 days where I have stuff coming up like this, I'll condense them into one episode and I'll share things that way for you. But as always, thank you for being here. I'm very appreciative. I'm very grateful that you are here and just interested in the things that I have to say and me sharing my own experiences and any of the teachings and the tools that I bring to you guys as well. So I'm very, very grateful as always. You can book a one-on-one session at any point. You can join the email list, check out my other podcast episodes, follow my new YouTube channel, the Homesteading Healer, and all the stuff. You can do all the stuff. I'll put the link in the description so that you can find it. And I will see you next time. Love you guys. Bye.